I want to help you get your bearings straight. So you are here. Well, there you are here at College Nights. You're like, I know, we've seen all the promotion forever. But College Nights is kind of a middle space between Sunday mornings and small groups, right? So this is like community, and this is church home. This is kind of, being a part of something bigger than yourself. This is like kind of zooming in and finding your people that you're really tight with. This is like having a mentor. So all of our college small groups are led in homes by adult leaders. This is like, I come on Sundays and I get to be a mentor. I get to be a leader. I get to lead a 9th grade small group. I get to lead a 2nd grade small group, heaven help you. You get to lead my 3-year-old daughter's small group, okay? Now these are weekly, and this is monthly. And then just the way our schedule works out, these are actually going to be every 3 weeks, the way the calendar works for September and October, which is awesome. But part of that is by design, to go like, hey, we really want you, we believe in these things, and you know how busy you are. And so there's kind of a flow and a rhythm to this. But I want to show you this to mainly just go, if you only ever come to this, then you're only getting like 1/3 of everything that you could be experiencing. You're only getting kind of 1/3 of the overall experience. Now, these matter a lot. I believe in College Nights. It's my job to help put them on. I believe in them because they matter because they're encouraging, right? You come in here and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a whole lot of other people that are, that care about the same sort of things I care about. And they're also significant because they are an opportunity for us to talk about topics that kind of just fit in our kind of college lane. Does that make sense? So our church on a Sunday morning, if you come, is like half adults, half college students. We can't just talk about college stuff all the time. But at College Nights, we can. And so I'm so excited to tell you, starting right now, and for the next few months, we're going to be in a 4-part series, a College Nights original series entitled Affirmations. Now, this is not brought to you by the fine people who do the UGA Affirmations Twitter account, though we love them and believe in them very much. Actually, in fact, I brought some of my favorite ones right here, some of my favorite UGA affirmations. Like this one, I will not run into people I went to high school with. Like nothing, you're having a perfectly good Wednesday. All of a sudden, you run into somebody that you went to high school with. That's not okay. What else we got? Oh yeah, the Snelling doors will not obliterate me. This is a big deal because people, your family has asked you, like, is it safe to go to college and COVID? And you're like, it's not safe? Just trying to go into Snelling. Like, that's not safe, okay? COVID's fine. Snelling is, that's a whole nother deal, right? Let's go to the next one here. Doing my roommate's dishes. Bill, I just put this in here because you know who you are, and I kind of just wanted to stir up the drama in your house a little bit. So you can go back to the, Tri-Delt house and talk it out or whatever. All right, let's go to the... Spike does not paralyze me with fear. And this hits home. I put this in here for my 3-year-old because we cannot take her to Stegman Coliseum anymore. We cannot take her to a basketball game or a gymnastics meet because if she sees Spike across from Stegman, it's as though Freddy Krueger was in your bedroom. It's a meltdown, people. Love this one. I am attentive in my 8 a.m. So even when they're not true, like affirmations still kind of are good practices. This one, my AirPods will shield me from spontaneous social, if only it were that easy, right? And lastly, and I would say most importantly tonight, I will not sneeze or cough in class or at College Nights. Thank you very much. So that's not what this series is about. We're talking about some of the deeper it's a great account. You should follow them, and we're open to sponsorship opportunities always. But we are talking about some of the deeper stuff. And the subtitle for the series is Overcoming Loneliness, Comparison, Temptation, and Anxiety with the Presence and Promises of God. It's a long subtitle. I'll read it again. Overcoming Loneliness, Comparison, Temptation, and Anxiety with the Presence and Promises of God. Next time, so our next College Nights, 3 weeks, September 14th, mark your calendars. Allie Cooney is going to be speaking. You may know her as Allie Stanley. Andy Stanley's daughter is going to be here. And she's going to be talking about comparison, which is not at all relevant to our season of life, obviously. But tonight, I want to talk about the first one from the list because I think it's like the most important one as we start this semester, and that is loneliness. Saw a survey recently of 48,000 college students that said that a whopping 67% of females and 54% of males had felt, quote, very lonely in the past 12 months, which what does not help, obviously, with that is a global pandemic, right? That does not exactly help with loneliness. And you remember this if you're a freshman last year, you come to college praying they let you stay, right? But UJ is saying you're not even allowed to go in the dorm room next to you on your halls. Hello. Like that was our reality, right? Meanwhile, only 20% of students say they had never felt lonely at college, to which I want to know, if you are one of those 20%, how hard do you go? Like, how is that even possible that you have never, ever felt lonely at college? They say living with loneliness actually increases your odds of dying earlier. Apparently that's true for pets as well. Like, a lonely pets are more likely, which is, I don't know if that's true, because we had this one cat that we were just kind of waiting to, and just never, sometimes you're just ready to kind of move on to the next thing, right? And she never did it. But apparently living alone, or even a pet living alone, increases your odds of dying sooner. And anecdotally, 90% of the parents this is just my estimate, 90% of the parents that reach out to me, which is weird to think that your parents reach out to me, that's sort of strange to think about, they do not reach out about your grades. They do not reach out about your pot, right? That would be hypocritical, right? It's like, hey, my kid stole my pot. If you could just help me get that back. No, that's not what they do, right? Every time, 90% of the time, it's a mother reaching out about her son. It's a dad reaching out about his daughter, and it's always about your loneliness. And it's true, because we did a survey on Instagram, kind of a private little deal on the Insta story, whatever it's called, questions. And we said, hey, what's your number one deal? Like, when you look at college life, what's the number one problem that you see? And hands down, the number one answer was loneliness, which is interesting, because you don't always say that publicly. Like in the stories, or if somebody asked you that, in your small group, you wouldn't necessarily come right out and go, I'm just lonely all the time. And I think that goes to show a couple of things. One, the stigma that is around loneliness right now. I mean, you know this, but you are far more comfortable saying that you are depressed than you are comfortable with saying that you're lonely. And if you talk to a counselor about that, depression is real, obviously, but for a lot of counselors, depression is a code word that might actually, under the surface, mean lonely, right? But we're not comfortable saying that out loud. The second thing I would say is, of course you're lonely, and especially if you're a freshman, because you literally moved out of your parents' house, to a brand new house or dorm 2 weeks ago, and you're like, I know, it's awesome, thank you very much. But this is a bit of a dramatic kind of life turnaround thing. Literally you move from one town to a completely different town, living by yourself for the first time ever. And I just want to tell you, if that makes you lonely, that is perfectly okay. One survey found that college students were the loneliest age group or people group in all of America. And that survey was from the 1950s. And you know what that shows me? That this is not a you problem. There's nothing necessarily wrong with you, right? This has always been the case for college students. This was the case when I was in school, again, way too long ago. This is something about this season, which is why our vision, and hopefully you saw it on the big banner when we came in the lobby, and feel free to take a picture and post it. We love reposting people, is home away from home. You don't live at home anymore, you have a new home, and part of that is trying to figure out, where do I belong? And our vision as a college ministry is to be a home away from home. When we talk about the small groups, that's literally going into a leader's home, which is the kind of penultimate example of being a home away from home. But that's why we exist, to go this is the hardest transition of your life. You are in the loneliest people group in America, but we want to help with that. And you would think that a big church would help with that, or a big campus. I go to a big school, I'm in a big college town, that would help. But that doesn't always help, right? What's the Ed Sheeran Khalid song, The Beautiful People? Beautiful people. There's the line in that song. I love it. The little tiny line hidden in the song. I'll do the whole thing if you want. But in the song it says, the lyric, it says, surrounded but still alone. I pray that's not your experience right now, but I know that's real. I was talking to one of our college students who works on our staff, LDP staff. He said, my first, this was, I guess 2 years ago, my first weekend at college, I met this worship thing. And I know the whole point of the worship thing was to make us feel not alone. He said, I'm standing in the middle of this huge theater, and I just never felt more alone in my life, right? But maybe for you, it's not being here in a new place. Maybe it's the fact that somebody else is somewhere else, right? Maybe you're a fifth year grad student. Everybody else in your kind of undergrad life has sort of moved on, right? And so for you, it's not that you're here, it's the fact that they're there. And I'll tell you, this is just a whole separate thing that we can talk about when you get closer to graduating. But whenever somebody graduates and the kind of the friend group sort of splits up, very traumatic, half the people, maybe more, go to Atlanta or wherever. And all the people that are in Athens say, man, I'm just so bummed. I'm jealous. I miss all my friends that are in Atlanta. I wish I was there. And all the friends that go to Atlanta say the same thing about Athens. I'm just so bummed. I don't have any friends here. I feel lonely here. I miss my time in Athens. And I think what that goes to show is that loneliness does not care about a location. Does that make sense? Loneliness is about more than where your body is in a given moment, right? A breakup can leave you feeling lonely. You know that? A betrayal can leave you lonely. For some of you, busyness can leave you lonely. I read about this thing called the cult of busyness. Some of you are in a cult and didn't even know it. You're going to have to call your mom later to be like, it turns out I'm in a cult. And the cult of busyness is perhaps people like you who just sign up for all the things. This was maybe your high school career. This is a little too close to home. And you just kept being busy and busy and busy and busy and busy and filling your schedule with more and more and more and more and more. And the reason why you joined said cult of busyness was because it helped you not have to deal with how lonely you actually felt on the inside, right? So ironically, you say on some of those surveys, even more than loneliness, sometimes you say that you're tired, which you are tired, right? Trying to mask how lonely you feel in the cult of busyness, right? And it may be harder here because in high school, and I've had this conversation 100 times lately, let's be honest, in high school, you were the stuff. Like you were the bomb in high school, right? And you came to college and like everyone is valedictorian. It's true. And everybody was a homecoming queen. And that is a disorienting feeling to go from being like the star of the show to now I'm just like I feel average. I don't feel special anymore. We're going to talk about that next time in 3 weeks when Allie's here, obviously about comparison because it's all linked. But it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 friends on Instagram. You're like, that's it? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000. You think you're better than us? Okay, cool. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 contacts in your phone. It doesn't matter if there's 1,000 people that live in your dorm. Loneliness does not care about that. It's not about how many people, you're around. You're around people all the time. I love what Jordan Peterson said. He, tried to break it down for us. He said, loneliness develops not from being alone. That's not your problem, right? Your people, too much people probably. But from inadequate, intimate connections, close relationships, and unresolved conflicts. I thought that's really interesting. So loneliness doesn't come from not having people or being around people. You're around people all the time. It's because you don't have enough close relationships or the relationships that you have are strained. And so I guess my question to kind of start tonight is, are you lonely? And if so, is one of these two things perhaps to blame? Now, part of my wiring is I love to just talk it out, and I love hearing you guys talk it out a little bit. So we'd love to have some discussion moments. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you 90 seconds. We're gonna put a song on the deal out loud, and if you're like an introvert, this is your worst nightmare. So you can pretend to pray, we'll think you're so spiritual, or you can go to the bathroom and do whatever. But I wanna give you 90 seconds to ask somebody out. No, don't do that. Just 90 seconds to just with somebody around you, people you came with, meet somebody new, whatever. I want you to tell me, agree? Disagree? Like, is this been your experience? Did you see one of these two things in your life or the people you know? I want to give you 90 seconds to talk about it, and then I'll pull us back together. Cool? All right, go. Weird. All right, well, I want to help briefly with some of the, just some things I've learned. Some of it just in my own journey dealing with this in college, some of it, post-college and seminary classes, and also just preparing for tonight. And specifically in our final 17 and a half minutes, I want to talk about kind of what can you do in the moment when you're feeling lonely? Because we're all gonna have that. You're gonna have so many, lonely nights. Like when you're in college, not so many, but like you will have some. And what do you do in those lonely nights? And then is there anything we can do, or you can do preventatively to kind of help you from getting there? Does that make sense? And so we will use some affirmations throughout the course of this series. And the first affirmation is this. This is gonna sound so cheesy from the church guy, but go with me here. I believe this. A lonely night is a great night to pursue God. We can clap for that. Can we clap for that? That would help. That would be good. And my hunch is that you're clapping because you've lived it or you've tried it, right? But here's what I'm trying to say. Don't view a lonely night as a failure or a loss, okay? I want you to view it as an opportunity, right? Loneliness is not necessarily a problem. You know this, right? It's what you do when you're lonely that can be a problem. Right? Where do you go when you're lonely that can be a problem? And the tendency for us, honestly, if we're being honest, is when I feel, when I'm lonely, I feel lame, right? Man, I am lame. So I got to do something that makes me feel less lame, right? Loneliness makes us feel like there's something wrong with us, right? And we will do whatever it takes to get that feeling to go away. Some of you did things your first week or weekend in college that you wouldn't normally do, that you don't feel great about. You don't love. You were with people that you don't feel great about. You definitely don't love, but it was either that or just be lonely, right? And you'll do anything to shake that feeling that something's wrong with you, that you feel lame. And so that's why we pursue some of the things that we do, right? And what I want to submit to you tonight with this first affirmation is, what if loneliness was actually the path? It was actually the thing that ended up drawing you closer to God. What if you took what felt like a negative, right? Oh man, this is a bummer. It's a Friday night and I'm all by myself. And what if you actually turned it into a positive? Because the truth is, every time you are faced with a lonely night, you have a choice, right? Am I gonna pursue X, Y, Z, or am I going to pursue God instead, right? And you talk all the time, you say to your friends that you don't have, feel like you have enough time to spend with God, that you're so busy on your cult of busyness that you don't ever have time for God. Well, what if this was an opportunity, right? Do you want to kind of pursue all the vices that our wonderful college town has to offer, right? Or would it benefit you more to open up your Bible, to pray, to open up, Spotify or Apple Music? Probably Spotify is better. Sorry, don't at me. It is. To open up YouTube, to find a song, right? To find a sermon, a podcast, right? This is what James said, James, the brother of Jesus, in one of his letters. He says, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Here's what I love about that. You text your friends, they don't text you back, right? You text your friends, you reach out to your friends, they ghost you. You reach out to God, he Holy Ghosts you. You know what I'm saying? I told myself I was not gonna make that joke, and here we are. Dang it, I just was not gonna do that. Here we are, but it's true. You reach out to your friends and it's just ghosting, right? And here's why this is a big deal. Because when we are lonely, what we're looking for is a response, right? We're just looking for somebody to give something back to us. And if we're honest, that's why we choose some of the options we do, right? Some of the vices that we choose, some of the things that we look at, some of the people that we'll, reach out to. Ironically, by the way, I don't know, I'm gonna throw shade for a second. I wasn't planning on saying this, but if there's somebody that you only reach out to when you're lonely, that's a weird thing, by the way. Can we just talk about that? That's a weird deal. That should be a sign, right? And the reason you do that, and the reason that sorry, that's for somebody. I was not in the notes. The reason that we do that is because we know we're gonna get a response, right? And we're just desperate for a response, and that doesn't make you bad, right? The loneliness makes us feel like something's wrong with us. And what James is saying, this is so beautiful, is that when you reach out to God, when you holler at God, when you call on God and draw near to God, he reciprocates. He responds to you, right? A lonely night is a great night to pursue God. I want you to promise me that when you find yourself in your next lonely, even this is gonna be cool because you're not even gonna end up necessarily going to church here. Promise me you will hear my stupid voice in your head in that moment going, oh my gosh, I have another option. A lonely night is a great night to pursue God. I want you to just try it next time you find yourself in a lonely night and see what happens. Now, you have a choice. Now, the second thing is, how do we prevent this? And if you study this was mind-blowing to me. So psychologists point out there's essentially two main kind of habits or things you can do to help prevent loneliness in your life. And what blew my mind was how much they overlapped with all the things that Christians teach, and specifically the big kind of Christian practices that line up with our faith. And these were the two words that psychologists said you should pursue. That you need to have risk and ritual. If you want to proactively fight against loneliness in your life, you need to have risk and ritual. Or in Christianity, we would call that faith and practice, right? It's a step of faith and a continual practice. It's a decision and it's a series of ongoing decisions. It's a courageous step and then it's walking in his ways. So let's talk about risk. So with regards to loneliness, this is gonna blow your minds. At a certain point, you're gonna have to put yourself out there. You just are. You're gonna have to, this is shocking, you're gonna have to walk across the hall and actually talk to somebody. You're gonna have to sign up for something. And spoiler alert, you're gonna have to actually go to the thing that you signed up for, right? You're gonna have to go to your class, and instead of sitting by yourself and not talking to anybody, playing on your phone or whatever, you're gonna have to actually talk to somebody. You're like, look, nobody said we're gonna have to talk to anybody. You're gonna have to talk to somebody. You're gonna have to use your social skills, right? And risk, this is big, and risk looking stupid. If you wanna make friends, or if you wanna get a date, welcome to college, right? Jesus said, you gotta get out of the boat. You've heard the idea of risk and reward. You don't get the reward without the risk. And what I wanna tell you is that what you want most is not even possible without risk. We already said it. What you want most is reciprocation. What you want most in life is to say, I love you to somebody, and for them to say, I love you back. To say to somebody, I think I like you, and for them to say, I think I like you too, right? Can we be friends? Yeah, I would love to be friends, but you don't get reciprocation without risk. You don't get anything without risk. This is what M. Scott Peck said, Harvard guy, smart guy, wrote a lot of books. He said, there can be no vulnerability without risk. If you wanna be close to somebody, you wanna let people in, you can't have that without risk. There can be no community without vulnerability. Like if you're not having relationships like that, the whole thing falls apart, right? There can be no peace and ultimately no life at all without community. In other words, it all starts with risk. And you've done this before. Like when you applied to college, when you figured out a roommate, maybe when you got a date to prom, like you decided it was worth it, right? To get your hopes up, to risk looking stupid. And sometimes you had to, right? Because UGA and UNG and Athens Tech don't send acceptance letters to people that do not apply. You know this. But you don't get what you want without risk. And what you want most is unconditional love, but you'll never know it if you don't risk. Does that make sense? All right, second thing, ritual. So psychologists say that one of the best things you can do to prevent loneliness in your life is to create rituals. As they would say, regular get-togethers that you can look forward to. If you're taking notes, regular get-togethers you can look forward to. So a worldly example of this would be, getting together with the girls for Bachelor on Monday nights, right? And so I won't tell you the whole story, but essentially this is how my wife and I met or got to know each other, was watching The Bachelor on Monday nights. And at some point it was like, hey, will you accept this rose forever? And she did. And that's not the whole story, but that's pretty much how it went down. And there's a reason college nights are on Tuesday nights and not Monday nights. But is he kidding? Is he not kidding? I don't know. But look, that's the scientists, the psychologists say that's a good practice, right? Like you've got regular kind of community in your life you can look forward to. Rituals really do promote community. In other words, this is what I put in my notes. What can you do to have predictable community on your calendar every week? What can you do to have predictable community on your calendar every week? Because you know this, our normal flow, our normal kind of life flow, even in college, is not towards being around other people, is it, right? It's towards isolation. And this book is crazy. This is another pretty old book, like from the 70s, called The Pursuit of Loneliness. And I want to read you what he said. This is fascinating to think about. This is what life was like in the 1970s, because it sounds like it could be from 50 years later. This is Philip Slater. He said, we seek a private house, a private means of transportation, a private garden, that'd be cool, a private laundry, self-service stores, and do-it-yourself skills of every kind. An enormous technology, right, 1970, seems to have set itself the task of making it unnecessary for one human being to ever ask anything of another in the course of going about his or her daily business. Even within the family, this is your life growing up. Americans are unique in their feeling that each member should have a separate room and even a separate telephone and television and car when economically possible. You're like, please God, second year, can't wait. We seek more and more privacy. This is huge. And feel more and more alienated and lonely when we get it. I'll read that again. We seek more and more privacy and feel more and more alienated and lonely when we get it. He had this other quote in the book that said, it is curious that people put so much energy into isolating themselves and then are completely unprepared for how it makes them feel. And we do this to ourselves. So here's a question I've been asking myself lately, and it's this. Am I doing anything that promotes loneliness in my life? Like, am I building in habits of isolation and they're actually gonna lead me towards loneliness and away from community? Psychologists tell you, by the way, if you start to feel that lonely feeling, that's actually kind of a good thing, because that's your body trying to warn you that perhaps you're drifting too far from the pack. You gotta respond to it. So when we talk about rituals, we're talking about things like this. Set goals for yourself to fight against loneliness. Decide what you're gonna risk, what your commitment's gonna be, right? Tell some other people about it. Let them hold you accountable. Here's another one. Commit to community, right? Do community with intention, right? This is why the scriptures say, like, don't give up meeting together, right? That's not just talking about like, hey, like you should go to church and don't skip church, right? Or your mom's gonna be mad at you. It's not that, right? It's like, hey, the whole rest of the world is in a pursuit of loneliness, a pursuit of isolation, a pursuit of kind of individual spirituality. And the writers of scripture are going, don't make your faith that same way. You're never gonna make it that way, right? Don't let your faith just be about like kind of fueling up on your own, on a run with some music. Don't just let your faith be about whatever podcast you're listening to. Like, don't give up meeting together. You need to commit to community. You need to find a ritual in your life, like a predictable community, something on your calendar you can look forward to every week. Now, around here, we call this small group spoiler alert. And I bet you just love going to every ministry in the world every day of the week right now, just hearing them talk about their small groups. I'm sure it's exhausting if you're a freshman. But we believe in this. And I'll just tell you, I am passionate about this, and not just from the Athens church side of it. I believe that every college student in our whole city should be in a small group somewhere. It doesn't have to be here, but I am passionate about this. And I'll admit that I am biased. I don't like work on commission. You know that, right? It's not like, oh, it's $1 for every college student that signs up for a small group. That's not the deal around here, okay? I'm passionate about this because my community group are my best friends. They're my best friends. If I had to start getting rid of people or things in my life, they'd be the last ones to go. I mean that. The people we tailgate with, the people we do everything with, the people that come to the hospital when we have our kids, they are everything to us. There are everything. And so that is like the one place that I can truly find acceptance. And if you were here in April by chance, you heard us mention this other science article that was studying what it called the young people drowning in a rising tide of perfectionism. Remember that? All young people drowning in a rising tide of perfectionism. And if you were here, there was a super depressing article basically about how life, everybody's just trying to be so perfect and there's really no hope, and just makes you more depressed how perfect everyone's trying to be and all the pressure it puts on you. But it was interesting. These secular scientists did find one antidote for the rising young people drowning in a rising tide of perfectionism. You remember what it was? Yeah, somebody said it. Environments of unconditional love. They said if you are a young person drowning in a rising tide of perfectionism, what you need is a circle. It's a group of people that you don't have to impress, that aren't judging you on your performance, but are just accepting you. You need that kind of predictable place that you can go. And so we believe in small groups. And I'm not saying that this makes your life perfect, that it's like this magic thing that makes everything better. But I'll tell you what I do believe. I do believe that God will lead this to be a place of home for you. And I believe that he's involved in putting together some of the community in your life. And I'm obsessed with this verse I found recently in Psalm 68. Look at this. This is the NIV. God sets the lonely in families, right? So maybe your family life back home is not, the best. Well, God's trying to put you, maybe here at college in a different home away from home, in a different family. This is in the BBE translation. Those who are without friends, God puts in family. You don't have any friends? Okay, that's okay. God's got a plan for that. And lastly, the New American Standard. This is beautiful. God makes a home for the lonely. When we talk about home away from home, that's what we're talking about. God working on your behalf to find a group of people, a place where you can belong. And so I want to show you a brief video, it's like 4 minutes or something, of a couple college students from our church who did this, who found this, who took a step out of college nights and into a group. I want you to hear how it benefited them, and then I'm gonna come back and tell you the best part after that, and then we'll sing another song. So let's take a look at this.
When I first came to college, I wasn't sure how finding friends was going to be. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to join a frat. I knew coming to college I wanted to be very social and join a church that I liked to be a part of.
All of my friends and I were super excited for the first college nights, and we came and you guys were talking about small groups, and then my friends Emma and Maddie, I was sitting in between them and they look over and they're like, we're joining one. Like as soon as we get in the car, we're like opening up the link and we're joining. I don't know, it kind of just like kept on going over my head. I didn't fully understand that like, oh, this is really for me. Like I should join a small group.
I just really wanted to become more involved and join a group and learn more people. Most of my friends weren't Christ followers, and that's something I was comfortable with, but I wanted to have that solid foundation where I can come back and get restored and replenished by knowing that people like me are like-minded and think similarly, and kind of have that restorative time with God to talk about with peers.
It's definitely made this church a lot smaller and a lot more like home, and like I have a community here. I was really intimidated to meet all the girls at first and to meet our leaders.
Came in not really sure what to expect, similarly to when I came here, but with a little bit more expectations of what a small group should look like, and coming with a bit more rigid of a face of, okay, this is my church face, this is how I want to present myself. And I realized very quickly I could let my guard down and just be myself around these guys.
What we normally do in small group is we'll eat and we'll talk and catch up, and then Debbie and Jill just get right into it and they start talking about like maybe this past sermon that we had on a Sunday, or like right now we're reading The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. So we'll like go through the book, and those conversations have been really deep and really good, and super life-giving.
It's the time of the week where we can just be ourselves authentically. We know how each other thinks, and we can just spend that time, and we don't have to, but sometimes we do take deep dives. We can just be around each other and feel God's presence, and that's a really rewarding and powerful thing.
The girls in my group are seriously like my community and my home, and they're the girls that I run to when I need to cry or when I need like an uplifting word, and like they're there to pray for me and there to listen to me, and they truly care. So wherever we are, like I can always count on them.
I can't say enough nice things about Bob. He's been influential in the past 4 years for me. We like to golf, we like coffee, we like to be up before the crack of dawn, and just spending that time at Waffle House or wherever it is, on the golf course, just the time with an older mentor, but somebody who feels as if it's talking to a peer. It's just super rewarding. It's somebody who has tons of experience, but a lot of understanding as well.
It's really cool that Debbie and Jill are older. They truly care and they know exactly what I'm going through, and it's kind of like a zoomed out perspective. They're just super supportive, and genuinely, they really care for us. Within this past year, I've grown a lot with my relationship with God, making it a lot more personal, but also learning that church is really a community, a circle of people who just do life together. It's really hard to come to college and not know like who's going to be your people and where you're going to find your home, but I found that with them.
I've never had a time where they don't check in on me and they don't spend that time to go out of their way to say, hey, what's going on? What can I pray for you? These people see me at a level where I didn't realize, and that can't really be described. It's just, they are my people. These are the people that you spend your time with that just mean the most to you.
My favorite memory with my group is coming back to Athens for spring semester of my sophomore year. I remember right after college nights we collected everyone before we all left, and Jill pulled us aside. I just talked about how I feel so homesick and like I just really want home here. So I remember her specifically praying about that, and we all left like crying. We were very emotional. That was the first time I felt an actual home here in Athens. I don't know where else I would find that, just like the life-giving community I have with those girls, and I mean, it's priceless. I don't know, I love them. I don't know where to find them else. I don't know where else I'd get that.
I love that. When we say, our vision's to be a home away from home, that's what we mean. Like that's what it looks like. And that's something that's just, by the way, just a differentiating, I guess, factor that separates us a little bit when people say, like, what's the kind of difference with, Athens Church? Well, we're a church, and so we're, a multi-generational thing. So you come to be a part of a church like this, and you get to literally be in somebody's home. I talked to these girls last year. They're like, it was crazy. We went to my leader's house, and there was like a kitchen. I hadn't been in a kitchen in like 2 years, and it's like, can I bake? It's like, yeah, you can bake whatever you want, honey. Like, come on in, But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, having an adult mentor. We're talking about coming on Sundays and being a mentor for, a ninth grader or a second grader or a group of 4-year-olds. And so I want you to have that if you don't have it. And specifically, if you don't have a group and you're interested in doing it, you need to do it right now, because groups start on Sunday. Literally Sunday night, we're having a big old launch party on the green space to help kick off our groups. And there are lots of you have already done it, like 500 or 600 of you have already signed up for a group. So if you have not got your spot, like last time I looked, it's like 75% full, like all of them. And so you need to go on and do it. On our Instagram account at Athens Church College, there's a link in the bio, okay? Click the link in the bio. You can sign up to join a group, and it's so simple. We mentioned this on Sunday. It's literally like you go on a website and try to find a black hoodie in a medium, right? You would go on the website and be like, I'm looking for a freshman girls group on a Wednesday. Okay, I'm looking for a sophomore guys group on a Thursday, right? You just pick the one that works for you. All the different groups have different bios that kind of tell you what they're all about, who the leader is, kind of what they're hoping to get out of it. But if you're not in a group, I really, really, really want to encourage you to do it like tonight. Regardless of what kind of day of the week, like I said, you get to pick. Those groups start this upcoming Sunday. So promising you'll do that. But the best part of all of this for anybody who's feeling lonely tonight, here for you. I mentioned them, like, I want to be one of your pastors. I'm somebody who can be here for you. This church is here for you. If you, I hope you sense that and feel that sincerely, like we want you here, like you belong here. You can lead here. You can be a part of this place. You can be known here. You can connect here. You can grow here. You can grow in your faith tremendously here. You can have an opposite sort of story from some people where the story is, I came to college with a lot of faith and then it sort of just went that way. But your story can be the opposite where like your faith just keeps growing and growing. Like that's good news. But better than that, right? You can have a small group and your leader's there for you. But the best part and the greatest, honestly, promise I can make to you more than any of those is that whatever you walk through, and hear me, look me in the eye when I say this, God is with you. Yeah. The God of the whole universe knows your name, knows your story, and every lonely night that you experience, he is with you. And if you draw near to him, he'll draw near to you. I brought one of my favorite verses. It's Joshua 1:9. So my birthday is January 9th, Joshua 1:9. And so it's like my birthday verse. That's how you know you've been in church for a long time, by the way. When you have a birthday verse. This is my verse. I just felt led to bring this tonight for somebody. This is Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. That's a word for somebody tonight. Don't be afraid and don't be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And I know it's a new semester and it's so exciting, but the truth of it is some of us are real afraid. You're scared. A lot of your fears are actually relational fears, ironically, right? We look around the world and there's so much chaos and stuff that feels uncertain, and it's easy to be discouraged. And so I want to give you just our second kind of affirmation thing to hold on to, and if you are taking notes, please write this down and stew on this. This is so simple. God is with me. I will never be alone. Can we say that out loud all together? Ready? God is with me. I will never be alone. Let's say it again. God is with me. I will never be alone. One more time. God is with me. I will never be alone. Look at me. This is the best reality for us tonight, for you and for me. We're going to sing this closing song in a second. That's the whole point of this whole song, that whatever you walk through this year, these next 4 years, 5 years, no judgment, that God is with you, that God is for you. I want to pray for you. Now, there's definitely a group of the people, no doubt, in the room who's going, you say that God is with me, and definitely seems like some of the other people in the room are tracking with God because they're singing songs, hands in the air, but I don't feel like I know God. And I just want to this would be a cool thing to do tonight to start your semester. I want to just give you a chance to know God if you don't know God. Like if you don't, like you're here and you're like, I don't have a relationship with him. That was Carson's deal in the baptism, right? It's like I came, my girlfriend drugged me, good thing she did, but like now I know God. Like I didn't know him coming in to do the deal. I'm just here because they said somebody who's cute was going to be there. There was a hot dog or something, I want to invite you to know God. And what's so fascinating, is interesting, that Jordan Peterson quote, right? Said that sometimes the loneliness is because of lack of intimate relationships. And maybe that's your thing. You're just like, I don't know God closely. But the other side of it was like about unresolved conflicts. And for a lot of us, if we're being honest, the reason that we don't feel close to God, that you don't feel close to God, is because you have unresolved conflict with God. And I want to tell you that is not a problem here tonight, because of what Christ did on the cross for you, giving his life for you, paying the price for your sins. Like you've done so many things, you're like, God could never forgive me. He already has, actually. All you have to do is just ask him to do it, right? And all that unresolved conflict goes away. It's crazy. It's crazy to say to God, like, God, I messed up. Will you forgive me? And how much that goes away and where the freedom comes in. And so if you've never done that, like the stuff we're talking about will help you. Carson said it in the video. It's amazing, right? That's a good, helpful life advice. It is. Like you should take a risk. You should build in a ritual, predictable community in your life. But none of that will help you as much as having a relationship with Jesus. A God who, when you draw near to him, he draws near to you. And so I just want to kind of give you that chance. It's not in a weird way or anything. Nobody's going to single you out. But maybe we just close our eyes. We're about to sing the song. But if you're here and you're like, that's me, man. I need something more than what I can do. I don't know God, but I want to know him. I have made all kinds of bad mistakes, but you're telling me he forgives me. I want a piece of that. If that's you, I want to just lead you in a prayer. Will you just raise your hand? Nobody else looking around. I would love to just pray for you if that's you. Will you just raise your hand if I can see it? That is awesome. Oh, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right. That's so good. All right, I'm going to pray. You can kind of just pray this, again, not out loud. Just pray it in your heart to God. God, I want to know you. Knowing you is the best thing I need. And I do confess that I have made a mistake. I do confess that I have sinned. But I'm hearing this invitation to forgiveness. And I want it. I say thank you to Jesus. And I ask you to forgive me of my sins, to cleanse me of all the ways that I'm not very clean on the inside. And walk with me every day the rest of my life and in the life to come. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, there was more than a couple of people who prayed that prayer. Can we just celebrate them right now?